I'm holding on the energy names. I'm not selling anything. I'm not writing any covered calls. I've been asked about that last week. I'm not at the point where I say, yeah, we're going to have a sharp pullback. So let me take in some profit by writing covered calls. I'm not doing that here. I'm just holding on to the names. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's still a situation where anything could happen in a sense that could Iran pull the trigger on mines in the Strait of Hormuz? Could they pull a scorched earth strategy of blowing up their own wells and their own facilities? Remember, Iran was exporting close to 2 million barrels a day before. And once the dust settles, even if Israel and the U.S. pull back, it's going to be probably a disorganized sort of a mess there in the meantime. And if it's not a regime that the Allies view as friendly, they could then put sanctions on continued exports from Iran. And Iran, their main source of their economy is their oil exports. So, unless it's a situation that the U.S. and Israel view to be amenable to them, they could, like they've done with Russia, put sanctions on that oil. So it's not certain that when the dust settles, it's going to be a situation where that Iranian oil comes back into the market either. So again, I think the new normal once we get further out is going to be $70 to $75 a barrel. And I think obviously in the meantime, estimates for these companies have to come up, and the valuations, if we value them off of $70, $75 oil, I'm comfortable holding and owning these names here. So again, I'm not selling anything. I'm holding on to my core positions. The one name I'm not adding to, whether it's Cheniere, LNG, I didn't quite get to a full market position in that, but I'm not adding to that right here. I'm just waiting and watching on that name. That was the one name we added to last week.
Bob, under your heading of anything can happen, and there are all sorts of scenarios, and with the caveat that neither of us are geopolitical analysts or strategic military analysts. My question is, we've read about the mobilization of amphibious forces, which implies that there's the potential for boots on the ground. And one of the targets that could be considered is Karg Island. And
You're
so
right.
your comments about a scorched earth strategy, I think, come into play if we start to put boots on the ground. And I don't know if they would destroy the infrastructure on Karg Island, but if they did, how, how long does it take to rebuild something like that? And then sort of folded into that question is there has been some weakness in the Schlumbergers recently, but I mean, I assume those would really pick up if they, started to destroy infrastructure. Just any thoughts around that whole
Yeah, and the infrastructure is probably going to be Schlumberger is more on the oil field service side of it. So the infrastructure side of it's going to be somebody else that have to look in to see who would then rebuild it to be a construction company. But if they were to destroy all the terminals and the pipe offloading facilities and storage facilities there, it would take a long time to replace that. I mean, you're talking about 6 to 12 months at least just to put the steel back in place and the piping back in place to resume those exports if all those facilities were totally destroyed. Now, maybe you go further upstream and be able to tie those wells and the pipelines into something quicker that you can offload into a tanker at a separate location and run some pipe real quick to an offloading dock someplace else. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit quicker, but certainly it's going to be very difficult then for Iran to be exporting close to 1.8, 2 million barrels a day again in that scenario. And again, that's a scenario if you try to repair it and put it back in place, you have to have a regime that's willing to let the U.S. and whoever else come in to do that, that is acceptable basically to Trump in allowing them to resume their oil production and exports because we say, okay, yeah, you're doing what we want you to do now, and it's a regime that we sort of blessed and we'll let you we help restart your economy. But otherwise, it's still a weapon to use. If it's the old regime in some form still in control, I don't think they're exporting crude oil in any case.
your comment about steel is caught my ear, and I'm trying to remember. Is Vulcan Materials? I don't. This is way out of my comfort zone, but I wonder, are they a steel producer?
I have to go back and look. You
Yeah,
caught me off guard.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too. Sorry,
yeah.
we're out of our element here, but anyway.